Hello, everyone, and welcome to Quizzin' Hers. This is the trivia-based podcast where we test each other's knowledge and also the strength of our relationship. My name is Hallie, and I'm here with my fiance, Justin.
Hello, Internet.
This week, I will be asking the questions, and Justin will be answering them. So essentially, we have 6 categories that we've devised, and they all center around a central theme. So the categories are sounds and screen, arts and literature, sports and games, geography, history, and science, though not necessarily always in that order.
Correct.
At this point, after one game, I have 2 points or 2.5 points. It's debatable.
It's 2. You have 2 points.
I'm going with 2.5, and Justin has 0 because we haven't started yet, but I'm sure my lead will not last for long, but we shall see. And we are competing for a prize of which we have not yet decided. It could be anything. I think it should be Justin doing my laundry for a year, but we'll see.
Oh, okay.
We shall see.
That's how it's going to be.
And then each question I ask and Justin attempts to answer, I will do a little bit of discussion and background about it, and then hopefully we'll all learn something. All right, so today's theme is going to be Game of Groans. I'm calling it that because hopefully Justin will be groaning when he gets all these answers wrong, but I can dream. So anyway, the theme is Game of Thrones.
So every question is related in some way to Game of Thrones.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, question 1. It's sounds and screens. So, Diana Rigg, who plays Olenna Tyrell, the most badass grandma on TV, was previously most well known for her role in what 1960s British espionage TV show?
Oh, okay.
I know you've heard this before, but we'll see if you remember.
So I can only think of one British espionage show. I don't know if it was the 60s. Maybe it was. So I will guess The Avengers. Not the good Avengers, but that other show that was called The Avengers?
Yes.
That is correct? Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
Not to be confused with the Marvel
Correct.
Cinematic Universe.
Correct.
All right. So The Avengers was created in 1961, and it ran from 1961 until 1969, and by the time it ended, it was being aired in over 90 countries. So, in the first episode of The Avengers, the main character was Dr. David Keel, and he was played by Ian Hendry, and he was investigating the murder of his fiancée and receptionist by a drug ring. And John Steed, played by Patrick McNee, was also investigating the ring, so they worked together to avenge her death. And that was the first episode and why the series is called The Avengers.
Okay.
So, Ian Hendry, who played the main character, actually left the show after the first series.
Great.
To pursue a film career, which I don't think was too successful since I didn't see anything else I'd ever heard of. So
I've never heard of this person, so,
yeah, so
clearly
I don't think
he didn't get too far.
Yeah, I don't think he made the right decision there. So Steed, who was played by Patrick McNee, became the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And then starting with the second series, it was based on Steed and his many female assistants. They were many intelligent and assertive women, which was very progressive for the time.
Cool.
Sort of reminds me of Doctor Who, not that I've ever watched it, but a similar kind of premise with the Doctor and his female assistant.
Well, they call them companions on Doctor Who.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Here they call them assistants.
The Doctor's a woman now.
Yes, she
Jodie
is.
Whittaker.
Does she have a male companion? I don't know.
I don't think they've actually started her episodes yet. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't watch Doctor Who.
Yeah, me neither. It just reminded me of it. So Diana Rigg played one of these assistants, whose name was Emma Peel, and the other most famous assistant was Kathy Gale, and she was played by Honor Blackman. And Honor Blackman basically set the mold for what the assistants would be like. She was very confident and intelligent. She was an anthropologist who also did judo. So pretty cool. And then she was the only regular partner that the main character Steed had in the third season. Mm-hmm. And she actually left the show to play Pussy Galore in Goldfinger. So she actually did have a decent film career, unlike the other guy.
So who was that? Sorry, what was
her name is Honor, like Honor Blackman.
Honor Blackman. Okay, that's why. Okay, I knew that name sounded familiar because she was Pussy Galore. Okay.
Yep. So that was sort of how she got her start on the Avengers.
Okay.
And then throughout the show, Steed, the main character, sort of changed from a rugged agent into like a stereotypical Englishman with a bowler hat and an umbrella.
Great.
And funny enough, they added tricks to the bowler and the umbrella, like a sword in the umbrella handle and a steel plate in the hat. I don't really know what you would do with a steel plate.
Sounds like Odd Job from the Bond movies, from GoldenEye.
I was thinking of Kingsman, but
No, yeah, it sounds like Kingsman too.
But because they're very into being like a stereotypical Englishman.
Yeah. Well,
So-
Oddjob in Goldeneye had the hat with the razor on the brim, so you'd chuck it and it would, yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. And then Diana Rigg joined the show in
don't
the
know.
4th series. And her character was similarly intelligent and had a good fashion sense, but she had superior fighting skills, which is cool.
Okay.
The show actually originally hired someone else to play the role, but she was released after an episode and a half because they didn't like her as much as they liked the previous character played by Honor Blackman.
Right.
And then they auditioned 20 more actresses and went with Diana Rigg, who was basically unknown at that point. After Diana Rigg joined the show, episodes had more sci-fi and fantasy elements, which came to be known as spy-fi, which also reminds me of Doctor Who.
Yep.
Not that I watch it, but I'm thinking I should because it sounds fun. So while they were filming the show, Diana Rigg was unhappy with the way she was being treated, and she demanded a raise to put her more on par with her co-star, or she threatened to leave, which I think is very progressive, and I think she's channeling Olenna Tyrell.
Yeah, I was going to say classic Olenna move.
She was made to play that part, and they actually gave in, and they paid her more because the show was really popular in the U.S., and so they could afford to pay her more, which, good for her.
Yeah.
So she actually left the show at the end of the 5th series, and she also went on to be in a James Bond film, and it was On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh, the Lazenby one.
And she played his wife, Tracy Bond. So that's fun.
Ugh.
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen it, but
I don't know if I've seen part
but
of
I'm
it.
sure she's great in it, if
I'm
nothing
sure.
else.
George Lazenby is such a, I don't know, he's just like this very dour Bond. It's not very fun.
She probably makes up for his dourness. I don't know.
Pretty sure she dies.
Oh, well, that's sad. I guess I should watch it. In 1976, ITV created a sequel called The New Avengers, which still starred Patrick Macnee as John Steed, and he had 2 new partners in that show.
Uh-huh. New Avengers is also the name of a comic book.
Is it?
Yes.
I wonder
This is
who
so
was
bizarre.
plagiarizing who.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like if the Marvel Avengers were that big at that point, then they wouldn't have named this show The Avengers.
Well, I mean, they weren't. Not even close.
Yeah, so
Not
I
like
think,
it is now.
So maybe they plagiarized them.
Maybe.
I don't know. So only 3 of the first season's episodes still exist.
Oh, wow.
A company called Big Finish Productions is actually recreating the lost episodes for audio.
Huh.
Which is cool. I'm not sure where you would be able to watch any of it now, but I'd be interested in it. It
YouTube,
sounds
probably.
cool. So I have just a few facts just to sum everything up.
Yep.
It was ranked number 20 on TV Guide's top cult shows ever.
Okay.
And in 1984, Patrick Macnee appeared on Magnum P.I. as a retired British agent who believed he was Sherlock Holmes.
Incredible.
Which is amazing. Also, there is an episode in Series 3 called Death of a Batman.
Okay.
I feel like the writers of this show are really into comics.
Or so unaware of comics that they kept inadvertently plagiarizing them, one or the other.
Like one way or the other. It's all very strange. Lastly, Macnee and Blackman released a song together called Kinky Boots that were about the leather boots that she wore in the show.
Okay.
Which is strange, not to be confused with the musical Kinky Boots.
I was going to say, does it have anything to do with the show?
It doesn't, but
Okay.
What a strange thing that they released a song.
Yeah, that's really bizarre.
Anyway, that's the story of The Avengers.
Okay.
All right, question 2. You have 1 point. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is arts and literature. In which story about a traveling salesman turned into an insect does the protagonist share a first name with the Game of Thrones character known as the Mountain? His last name is also 1 letter away from one of the main female Game of Thrones characters.
Okay. So it's Gregor Sansa in The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka.
Damn, you know a lot. I can't trick you. It's Samsa.
It's
not Sansa. Samsa with an M.
Samsa. Okay. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So a bit about The Metamorphosis.
Yep.
Like you said, it was written by Franz Kafka, and it was published in 1915. Its name in German is Die Verwanderung, or Verwandlung.
Okay.
And like we said, the protagonist is Gregor Samsa, and he's a traveling salesman. And in the very beginning of the story, he wakes up to find that he has turned into a giant insect. And after that, he isolates himself in his bedroom, and his mother sees him and faints, and basically it's all very scary. And he, for some reason, this adult traveling salesman lives with his sister and his parents. That's not explained. His sister, Greta, brings him food scraps to eat, and they bring visitors to the house, but he scares them away because he's a large insect.
Giant bug, yep.
Right? And then Greta, his sister, decides that he's too difficult to care for and tells the parents that they have to get rid of him. After hearing this, he goes back into his bedroom and dies. Very dark.
Mm-hmm.
The story ends with his family seeing that he's dead, being relieved, and then just moving and, I guess, forgetting about him.
They just, they leave him there?
They just leave him there. And then they have to move to a smaller apartment because apparently he was the main breadwinner, being a traveling salesman.
God, jeez. Okay.
So, I don't know. I haven't read anything by Kafka, but it sounds...
I read this in high school a long time ago, and, I sort of remember what you're describing, but not very clearly.
Sounds not fun.
Oh, it's not a pleasant read, no.
Yeah. So most interpretations of it claim that Kafka was expressing his own feelings of isolation and feelings that the world was being cruel to him.
Mm-hmm.
Others believe that the name Metamorphosis is actually referring to the character Gregor's sister Greta, because throughout the story she matures and takes on more responsibilities, and I guess it's sort of a metaphorical metamorphosis.
Interesting.
Some good alliteration there. Say that 10 times fast.
No.
Metaphorical metamorphosis. Anyway, there have been 11 English translations of the Metamorphosis, with the most recent ones in 2014. There have also been 9 film versions of it, the latest of which was in 2017.
Really?
So I guess it's still popular. In 1983, Brian Howard turned the story into an opera called Metamorphosis. Philip Glass composed a 5-movement arrangement called Metamorphosis, inspired by the novel. And there have been many references to the Metamorphosis in pop culture, including in The Producers, Spaceballs, Calvin and Hobbes, and Riverdale. So I guess Mel Brooks had a thing for it.
I do not remember a reference to this in Spaceballs.
Yeah, it's there.
Okay.
There's some sort of insect character or something. I don't remember the details.
I don't remember that.
Anyway, just a little bit of information about Kafka himself.
Yeah.
He was born in 1883 in Prague. His family was Jewish and mainly spoke German, and he had 3 sisters who all died in the Holocaust, but actually that was after he died, because he was born in 1883.
Right.
He went to university in Prague and studied law, mainly for its career prospects, but he was interested in Czech literature and not really as interested in law.
Uh-huh.
He ended up becoming an insurance person. What do you call an insurance person?
Like a salesman or a
broker? Yeah, I think a broker, an insurance broker. Okay. He was exempted from World War I because of the job. He was never married, but he was engaged 3 times, twice of which were to the same woman.
Never sealed the deal, huh?
Yeah, and after the 3 engagements, he had affairs with several other women. So he had these 3 engagements, and none of them worked out. Some people believe that he had schizoid personality disorder, which was evidenced in the style of the Metamorphosis and several other of his works. He died from laryngeal tuberculosis in 1924. And
so how old would he have been?
He would have been 41.
Jeez.
Yeah, and it's believed that the actual cause of his death was starvation because it was so painful to eat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I just think it's...
Because what was it? It was
laryngeal tuberculosis.
So his throat was so swollen or whatever that he couldn't eat?
Yeah,
wow.
And during the time that he was sick, his sister Utla took care of him, and I just think that's really interesting because in the Metamorphosis, his sister is the one taking care of him.
But this was long after he wrote the Metamorphosis,
yeah,
right? And
his sister, in the story, the sister was taking care of him, and he died of starvation in his room.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It's sort of predicted. I mean, it didn't predict it, but it's just strange how it's similar to his real life.
Yeah, that's weird.
But he didn't become a giant insect, so,
As far as we know.
As far as we don't know what happens with laryngeal tuberculosis.
History is silent on the subject of whether Franz Kafka ever turned into a giant insect.
Yes, we'll never know.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yep.
Huh, okay.
All right, question 3. You are 2 for 2. Can I stump you? I know this question is not going to stump you, but I enjoy it. So the category, if I didn't already say that, is sports and games. The question is, in the Game of Thrones edition of which board game made by Hasbro is there a secret passage from Cersei's bedchambers to King Tommen's bedchambers?
Okay, so it's the Game of Thrones edition of a board game with a secret passage. I'm betting this is the game you never will play with me anymore, which is Clue.
It is Clue.
Okay.
Also, I find it strange that there's a secret passage from Cersei's bedchambers to King Tommen.
To her sons, yeah, that's weird.
In case she just needs to sneak into her son's bedroom.
Yeah, you'd think it would be to her brothers. Spoiler alert.
For anyone who isn't watching Game of Thrones, get on that.
Season 1 came out 7 years ago. You have no excuse.
Yeah, no excuse anymore.
Isn't it funny that both of us for our first games independently chose TV shows as the themes? Because my game last week was all connected to the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is weird, but they're so different. They have nothing in common.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But yeah,
It's interesting that we both went that direction.
Yeah, well, I do like my TV. We both do.
Yeah, we do.
Yep. All right. Anyway, a little bit of information about Clue.
Okay.
It is called Clue in North America, but everywhere else it's called Cluedo.
I never understood that. Why is that? Do you know?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Getting there.
Jeez.
First, let me say, it was created by Anthony E. Pratt. He was a musician from Birmingham, England. And he originally called it Murder with an exclamation point. So like, murder!
Okay.
I guess that's like what you would scream if you were in the house with...
If you found the body or something. Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. Murder!
Kid-friendly game.
Yep. And it was first made by Waddingtons, which was a publisher of card and board games in the UK in 1949. They changed the name to Cluedo, which is a play on words for clue, and ludo, which is Latin for I play.
Huh.
Yep.
That's esoteric.
Yeah, I don't know why they came up with that, or why they didn't just call it Clue, which is what we ended up calling it anyway.
Interesting.
I mean, I guess it's fun if you know Latin.
But, like, what year was this?
1949.
Yeah, I don't think most people were learning Latin at that point anymore.
I don't either.
Huh.
Maybe they should have stuck with murder! I don't know. I like that. Anyway, the goal of the game is to figure out who murdered the victim, where the murder happened, and what the murder weapon was.
Yep.
And each player takes on the role of one of the 6 suspects and tries to figure out the answer by moving around the rooms and collecting clues from other players. In the original game created by Pratt, there were 10 characters, one of which was designated the victim by randomly drawing cards at the start of the game. The extra 4 characters were called Mr. Brown, Mr. Gold, Miss Gray, and Mrs. Silver. I mean, I'm kind of glad they got rid of those.
Yeah, those
They're
are very interesting.
Pretty lame.
Gray, brown, gold, and silver?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, not that exciting.
No.
But actually, a lot of the names were changed anyway. Nurse White was the original name for Mrs. White.
Okay.
And Colonel Yellow was the original name for Colonel Mustard.
Oh, that's terrible.
Colonel Yellow.
That's so bad.
So I don't think he had a way with naming, but he did come up with a pretty good game, so I'll cut him some slack. The other characters are Miss Scarlet, Professor Plum, Mrs. Peacock, and Reverend Mr. Green. He is Reverend in later UK versions, but mainly Mr. Green.
Huh, okay.
In the original game, there were also 11 rooms, of which they eliminated gun room and cellar. Although still the cellar is where you have to go to officially guess.
Oh, to win the game.
Right.
Really? I always thought that was going upstairs. It's going to the cellar?
Yep. Well, maybe not in all versions. There's like a lot of different versions you'll see. The other rooms are the kitchen, ballroom, conservatory, dining room, billiard room, library, lounge, hall, and study. You'll thank me for this when it comes up on Jeopardy!
Okay.
There were also 9 weapons originally, of which they eliminated the bomb, syringe, shillelagh? Shillelagh? Is it a walking stick?
Yes.
It described it as a walking stick.
So it's a walking stick that's designed as a blunt weapon. It's like an Irish weapon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was one. And then also a fireplace poker, an axe, and poison. I think my favorite is the walking stick, the shillelagh. It's also fun to say. The other weapons that we still have are the candlestick, dagger, which is a knife in North America,
okay,
a lead pipe, a revolver, a rope, and a spanner, which is a wrench in North America.
Ah, yeah.
Fun fact, the revolver is a Colt M1911 pistol in North America, and it is a Drysa, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, M1907 semi-automatic pistol in the UK. But now, basically all the games are an Allen & Thurber pepperbox revolver.
Okay.
I really did not think they thought this hard about what type of revolver it was. I mean, it's like this tiny little thing in the game.
Yeah, it's like an inch big.
Exactly. They actually used some of the unused weapons and characters in later spin-offs of the game.
Huh.
In 2008, Hasbro created Cluedo Discover the Secrets to be a modern take on the game, but it was criticized so much by the media and the fans that they changed it to Cluedo the Classic Mystery, which used the original formula. I couldn't find any information about what Discover the Secrets was, but apparently it sucked, so
okay.
Nobody played it. In 1985, a comedic film based on the American version of the game was released, and the person murdered was Mr. Body, who's not actually in the game. The film had different endings, which were released to different theaters, which is kind of cool. But it did terribly at the box office. It later developed a cult following, though.
I've seen it. It's horrible.
I like it. I really like Tim Curry, so I'm a fan.
I like Tim Curry, too. That's not a good movie.
I don't know. I guess as a kid I thought it was fun. But this is actually really cool. In 1997, they created a comedic musical version that ran off Broadway. And in the show, they would have 3 audience members each select one card and place it in an envelope. And the chosen cards would determine the show's ending. So there are 216 possible conclusions.
Wow.
So I assume that was sort of like an improv component to the show, which is such a cool idea.
That's really cool.
Yeah. It seems more fun than the movie where you could just play different versions off your DVD.
Take that, Edwin Drood, that only has 8 endings or whatever it is.
Yeah, 216.
Wow.
Yep. So some fun facts about Clue. The name of the English country house in which the game takes place is called Tudor Mansion, and it's in Hampshire, England, and it was in 1926 when they designed it based off of that. The weirdest versions of the game I could find were Juicy Couture.
What?
Apparently there's a Juicy Couture game. I guess like your weapon could be like some velvet pants. You could strangle people with it. I don't know.
Or just suffocate them with a big ass.
Yep.
Great.
I have no idea. Also, there's a SpongeBob SquarePants version.
Incredible.
And there's also, the newest version is the Golden Girls. Because, those old ladies want to murder some people. I don't know.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. And just recently, on January 22nd, it was announced that Ryan Reynolds is developing a new movie based on the game with Fox and the Deadpool writing team. They're going to pen the script.
What?
The Deadpool writing team is penning the script of Clue, which I find very interesting.
What?
Because it's going to be
Is this going to be like
very weird.
Like an ultra-violent, hard R reboot of Clue? Because I'd watch the shit out of that.
I couldn't find any information about the rating or anything, but I'm just picturing Deadpool in Clue. But
beating people with candlesticks.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, it'll probably be better than the last movie.
Oh, no question.
I mean, definitely all the Deadpool fans will go see it.
Yeah. Wow.
All right, question 4. You are 3 for 3. Let's see if the streak continues. I'm sort of rooting for you, but I'm also not. I don't know. We'll see. Conflicts of interest. I want the prize, but I want this to be a streak. We'll see. The category is geography.
Okay.
All right. Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who plays Jaime Lannister, is from which country that is surrounded on 3 sides by the North Sea?
Which country on 3 sides by the North Sea?
Right.
Denmark?
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Yes.
Whew, okay.
Oh, another one. All right. I figured I would ask strict geographically based question.
Yeah.
But you got it. Viggo Mortensen, who you love, is also from there.
I do love Viggo Mortensen.
All right, so Denmark is the southernmost Scandinavian nation. It is southwest of Sweden and south of Norway, and it is bordered to the south by Germany. Mm-hmm. Also included in the Kingdom of Denmark are the Faroe Islands and Greenland. Denmark itself consists of the main peninsula, which is called Jutland, which is what you would think of when you picture Denmark on the map, being surrounded by the North Sea, and an archipelago of 443 islands.
Wow.
I don't really know where they are, how they all fit in there, but they do.
They must be north of Peninsula, I guess.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Jutland also includes part of northern Germany. Denmark's 3 largest islands are called Zealand, Funen, and North Jutlandic Island. I always wondered if there was a Zealand because of New Zealand.
Yeah, well, there it is, I guess.
Yeah, there it is.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yep. Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark, is actually on the island of Zealand, not on the main peninsula.
Really?
Really.
Huh.
Anyway, a little history. The unified kingdom of Denmark began in the 8th century, but there are historic documents describing Danes living in the area as early as 500 AD. The current queen of Denmark, whose name is Margaret II, can trace her lineage back to the Viking kings Gorm the Old and Harald Bluetooth, which makes the monarchy of Denmark the oldest in Europe.
Huh.
Yeah. So the Danish Vikings were active in the southern British Isles and Western Europe from the 8th through the 10th century, and Harald Bluetooth Christianized the Danes around Sorry, not 19. 965.
I do that a lot.
So like 1,000 years earlier than that?
Right.
Yeah, 965. It is thought that they became Christian so as not to get invaded by the rising Holy Roman Empire, which was an important trading area for them.
Okay.
So I think they were never a particularly religious people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the 14th century, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway were ruled together under the Kalmar Union, spelled with a K, until Swedish secession in 1523. They were united under Queen Margaret I. After Swedish secession, Denmark tried to reassert their control, but could not force Sweden to return to the Union.
So Denmark was the sort of the dominant power in that union.
Yeah, it was.
It was the Danish monarchy.
Yeah, it sounded like...
Sorry, you said it was Denmark, Norway, and Sweden?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It sounded like Sweden left a couple times and then came back, but they couldn't get them back.
I see.
It was like the final breakup. Yeah. They were just like one of those couples. They couldn't stay together. Denmark and Norway were still under the same monarch until 1814. A little later, in 1849, the Constitution of Denmark was signed, which ended the absolute monarchy, and it became a parliamentary democracy. Denmark remained neutral during World War I, and in 1939, they signed a 10-year non-aggression pact with Nazi Germany. But Germany invaded Denmark in 1940, and the Danish government quickly surrendered. So, didn't quite work out.
Yikes.
Shocking. So after cooperating with Germany until 1943, the Danish Navy sent many officers to Sweden, which obviously they were neutral. The Danish resistance actually performed a rescue operation that was able to evacuate several thousand Jews and their families to Sweden before the Germans could take them to the death camps.
Wow.
Which is awesome. So
yeah, that's amazing.
So they were able to actually do something, and after surrendering to Germany, that was a big win.
Yeah.
In the early 1900s, Denmark introduced social and labor market reforms that were the basis for their current welfare state model. In 1973, Denmark joined the EU with certain opt-outs, such as maintaining its own currency, which is the krone. The plural of the krone is kroner.
Huh. Okay.
I thought that was interesting. Denmark was also... What's that?
I've heard of that.
You've heard of the krone? Yeah, I heard of that too.
Yeah.
Denmark was also among the founding members of NATO, the Nordic Council, and the United Nations. Today, Denmark is considered one of the happiest countries in the world. They have a high standard of living and rank highly in education, healthcare, protection of civil liberties, democratic governance, prosperity, and human development. So things are going well there. They're also ranked highest in social mobility.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they have one of the world's highest per capita incomes and one of the highest personal income tax rates. So it sounds like not the worst place to live.
No, not at all.
Sounds good to me.
Pretty cold, probably, but...
Yeah, well, worth the trade.
Yeah. Huh. Very cool. Okay. Yep.
All right, question 5. You're 4 for 4.
Yeah.
Will the streak continue? All right, the category is history. Also the name of Stannis Baratheon's hand, not his physical hand.
His right hand man.
Yes, the hand to Stannis Baratheon.
Yes, okay.
The name of what town is the location of the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum?
Wow.
This is my toughest question. This will determine if you will sweep the questions or not.
Oh man, I'm pitching a perfect game here. I have to figure this out, but
I would think you probably have a better shot of getting it through Game of Thrones than through the World Economic Forum, which is what I'll be talking about.
Oh God, it's the Beardy McGillicuddy. What is his name?
This is where the groaning begins that I suspected.
Yeah. What is his name? The guy with the spectacular beard.
Yep, that's the one.
Oh God, what's his name?
Is there like a time limit on this?
Yeah, there should be.
Or should I sing like the Jeopardy theme? No, I'll sing the Game of Thrones theme. Bum bum ba da dum bum ba da dum bum ba da dum bum. Bum, bum, ba-da-da. I think I have to stop you.
It starts with a J.
You can't think forever. It doesn't start with a J.
All right, I can't remember then. I don't know.
He doesn't sweep.
Damn it. All right, what is it?
All right, the answer is Davos.
Davos!
Davos Seaworth. Not the name of the name of the character is Davos Seaworth.
Right, okay.
Yep, so that is the location of the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum.
Okay.
So a bit more information about that. The World Economic Forum, which is abbreviated WEF, I might call it WEF from now on.
That works.
Seems simpler. It is a Swiss nonprofit foundation, which is actually based in Cologne. Is that how you spell it?
What?
Cologny.
Yeah, Cologne or Cologne or something.
Which is part of Geneva.
Okay.
It's not based in Davos.
But they have their meeting there.
However, they hold their annual meeting every January at Davos, which is in the canton of Graubünden.
Okay.
I like these names. I'm having fun with the Denmark names and the...
So this is Switzerland we're dealing with.
And the Swiss names,
yeah,
yes.
Okay.
In addition to the meeting at Davos, WEF also holds 6 to 8 meetings in different locations across Africa, East Asia, and Latin America. Besides all the meetings, WEF also comes out with research reports and helps organize initiatives based on different areas of the world. WEF was founded by Klaus Schwab, which is the most German name I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
He was a business professor at the University of Geneva. It was originally called the European Management Forum, and then became what is now known as WEF, because I made it WEF,
Right.
the World Economic Forum, in 1987. It was originally just about business leaders coming together to discuss management, but after some political events like the Arab-Israeli War in 1973, the meeting expanded to include economic and social issues, and politicians were invited for the first time. So now the goal of WEF is to bring world leaders together to discuss global issues as well as more regional issues. They try to be impartial, and they don't have any interests other than improving the state of the world, as they say. The meeting at Davos usually has about 2,500 participants from about 100 countries.
Wow.
Yeah. Most of them are business leaders, and the rest are made up of politicians, media leaders, academics, and religious leaders. Frequent attendees include Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Bono, and Tony Blair.
Okay.
The meeting lasts 5 days, and it's usually broadcast on TV and webcasts. It actually just happened. Webcasts, yes. Who do we have to tell? Who do we have to write a letter to? Amazing. Love it. Last year's meeting's theme, so each year they have a theme that the meeting is based around. So last year's meeting's theme was responsive and responsible leadership. And this year's theme was creating a shared future in a fractured world. Honestly, I've read through all the theme names, and they all sound very vague and...
Yeah, you're just saying words.
Exactly. I think they just talk about stuff.
Great.
That they want to talk about.
Yep.
So, of course, the WEF has been accused of promoting its own interests among the global elite. Critics say that they're not trying to solve global issues, but are trying to shift the burden from governments and businesses onto consumers. Sorry for getting so political. But, yeah, basically that's what the critiques are.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Trump was one of the first sitting presidents to actually go in a long time.
Huh.
But Bill Clinton still goes regularly.
Huh.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I don't know what they're accomplishing, but hopefully something.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd never even heard of that. So.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, last question. Justin already lost his chance at a sweep, but
Yep.
I think he can redeem himself. We'll see. All right, so this last question is science. In Game of Thrones, the green chemical wildfire is used by Tyrion Lannister to destroy Stannis Baratheon's ships at the Battle of Blackwater Bay. Which metallic element, number 29 on the periodic table, turns green when heated in a flame? No looking at your periodic table.
I'm not. So
he has a periodic table on the wall. I'm not letting him look.
Fortunately, I just finished memorizing the periodic table.
I know this was a gimme.
Number 29 is copper.
Yep, it is.
Yes. I knew this would come in handy.
You still didn't get a sweep, though.
Yeah.
I'll take what I can
I'm up
get.
5-2.
Yeah, I know. 2.5.
2.
Okay. All right. So a little about copper. The name comes from the Latin word...
Oh, this is a science question, by the way. I don't think we've said that.
I did say it.
Did you? Okay.
I did. I said it was science.
Okay, sorry.
Whatever. Anyway, the name of copper comes from the Latin word cuprum, which came from the Roman word cyprium, which came from the fact that the island of Cyprus was rich in copper mines, and the ancient people of Cyprus were famed for their works in copper. In terms of the history of copper, the Copper Age, which was also known as the Chalcolithic or Neolithic Age, was part of the Neolithic Age, and it was from around 4500 to 3500 BCE. It gave rise to the early Bronze Age, and the Bronze Age began in southeastern Europe around 3700 BCE and in northwestern Europe around 2500 BCE. It finally ended with the beginning of the Iron Age. As I said, copper is 29 on the periodic table. It is in group 11 of the periodic table along with silver and gold. I don't know, do you have any idea why it's not as special as silver and gold? I was just trying to think why it might not be. I think it's probably
a bit more common.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think it's a little more abundant.
Yeah.
And also, I believe it's easier to extract the ore. I was reading something about that.
So not only is there just literally more of it, it's also easier to get.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that
it's
makes
easier
sense.
to get from the ore.
Right.
But all of them have high ductility and electrical and thermal conductivity, which is useful.
What does that mean?
It means ductility means like it could be made into wire, like it's soft, I guess.
Okay. Like
easily
shapeable?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And then conductivity.
Right, it conducts current, yeah.
Right.
Copper wiring and everything.
And heat.
Yeah.
So copper is one of only a few metals that can be used directly from nature and doesn't need to be extracted from an ore.
Ah.
Like I was saying before, it's just easier to get.
Right, yeah, okay.
And when it oxidizes, copper forms copper carbonate and turns green. The green pigment of oxidized copper is called verdigris. When acetic acid is applied to copper plates, it's called patina when it happens by exposure to air or seawater over time, like the Statue of Liberty.
Right.
So the Statue of Liberty is a patina, not a verdigris.
Okay.
Anyway, copper is mainly used on its own as a building material, and it's also found in alloys. Brass is made of copper and zinc, whereas bronze is copper and any other metal, but usually they use tin. It's also used as an alloy in sterling silver jewelry, cupro-nickel coins, and thermocouples, which I believe is some electrical thing.
Okay.
I don't know exactly. U.S. nickels are actually 75% copper and only 25% nickel.
Huh.
Fun fact. Copper is also sometimes used in...
So, wait, so you said that... What are the alloy names again?
Brass.
Brass is...
Copper and zinc.
Copper and zinc.
Yep.
And...
Bronze.
Bronze is copper and anything else?
Anything else.
Usually tin?
Yeah, it's usually tin. But any copper and anything else besides zinc is bronze.
But a nickel
brass.
is not bronze. It's not an alloy. It's just...
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Because
it's just like part of it is... Like the inside is copper or something.
I think so.
And the rest is nickel.
I know like the inside of a penny
is zinc. Yeah.
So I guess a penny is like brass, but not an alloy. And a nickel is like...
Bronze, but not an alloy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Interesting.
So copper is also sometimes used in bacteriostatic agents, fungicides, and wood preservatives. So like antifungal, antimicrobial.
Okay.
Copper is essential for all living organisms as a dietary mineral. It is found on the respiratory enzyme complex cytochrome C oxidase, which I don't know if I'm getting too sciencey here, but it's part of the electron transport chain that converts oxygen to water and makes ATP in respiration.
Okay.
For all you science nerds out there. It's also part of the blood pigment hemocyanin that mollusks and crustaceans have instead of hemoglobin.
Huh.
Yeah. And the adult human has 1.4 to 2.1 milligrams of copper per kilogram of body weight. Chile was the top producer of copper in 2005, followed by the U.S., Indonesia, and Peru. And lastly, copper is the third most recycled metal in volume after iron and aluminum.
Huh. There you go.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that was interesting.
Yeah, copper is fun. I mean, it's definitely fun. I remember in AP Chem in high school, we took all the different metals and we put them in the flame.
And lit them on fire, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember doing that as well.
Yeah, that was a fun experiment. Luckily, it didn't turn into wildfire and explode my high school. All right, well, that's all the questions we have for today. You did pretty well, I would say. 5 out of 6.
Just for the record, I am up 5-2 after 2 weeks out of 10.
5-2.5.
5-2.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Maybe I'll get another half in the next game and it'll even things out.
Fine. If you do that, we can
Maybe you should stop asking 2-part questions and then this won't be a problem.
I do not think that was a terribly difficult question. If you haven't heard last week's episode, go back. It was a very reasonable 2-part question. Whatever. 2.5. Anyway. 2. Please come back next week as I will try to redeem myself on another episode of Quiz and Hers. Bye. Bye-bye. All right, question 1. The category is sounds and screens. So, Diana Rigg, who plays Olenna Tyrell, the most badass grandma on TV. Hallie, you never gave the theme.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Well, this is why we put in edit points.
I did a good job at the
You
beginning.
did,
huh?
yeah. This is why we put in edit points. So just do another take. Say what the game is called.
I'm not saying all of this.
No. Just today's game. I call today's game whatever because X, Y, Z.
What am I calling it?